Music as I have been a lot of other things. I've been driving a tractor trailer and a gravel truck, spending a lot of time sitting behind the wheel, like that, like the lady in the roller derby song. But I spend a lot of time in truck stops, drinking a lot of coffee and just watching what goes down. And it's funny because most of the runs I would make wouldn't be, more than a day, so I was always back home. But some of these truck stops, you see guys pulling in that have been driving non-stop for maybe 2 or 3 days. Now that's really something to see. When you see them walking in like, with that kind of expression on their face, they've been up too long. They have a term that they call these things they get into called West Coast turnarounds, which are like directional aids, I suppose. You take one in New York and you drive out to California and turn around and drive right back all the time. They cut off a broomstick about that long and wedge it down on the throttle pedal and then against the seat, so you have an extra foot to move around and dance with or do whatever you want. It's a lot of fun. I think the truck drivers are really a good bunch of people. I know all the guys that I hang around with back home are truck drivers and guys I've worked with over the past few years. There's a story about truckers. One of them had gotten 1 million miles in cab truck. Now that's really a lot of driving. And a radio station was interviewing him. And they said, 1,000 hours, every couple weeks. I mean, people are logging time on a highway in these trucks. It's really amazing. And you have like 1 million miles in. That's about 15 or 20 years worth of driving. He says, yeah. He says, I've seen just about everything happen too. He said, I've had bad weather. He says, I've slipped and slid off the highway. I've jackknifed, blown out back tires and front tires, lost my brakes. The radio station guy said, he said, let me just set up a situation so the people out there will know what kind of nerves and quick reflexes you guys all have. He said, sure. He said, suppose you're driving from Los Angeles into New York City and you come over the top peak of the Rockies. That's about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. You see the sign, it says 3-mile downhill run. No runaway truck lane, truckers use low gear. And like you kick it down into low gear, your partner's sleeping next to you. And just as you hit the crest and you go down about a half a mile, you find out that you don't have any brakes. The trucker goes, He says, well, and then you look down around the first curve and you see a little Volkswagen up on a jack, getting a back tire changed. The trucker looked up and said, And then, he says, coming up the other lane, you see a fuel oil truck in low gear. What do you think you'd do? The trucker sat there and looked for a little while and said, so I think I'd wake my partner up. Wow, he says, but all these things happening, you'd wake your partner up, right? He says, yep. He says, why would you do that? He says, well, he hasn't been driving long, and I know he ain't never seen a wreck like this before. And that's the story of Speedball Tucker. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.